Okay, this is Joseph P. Farrell for take two of News and Views from the Nefarium on Thursday, October 15th, 2020. I did another one. I was in the middle of it, and then I looked over. I happened to glance over at the chat room, and everybody said I sounded like Alvin the Chipmunk. So apparently, apparently, uh, there were some technical issues. And I apologize for not noticing that before, folks. But truth of the matter is, I've been having all sorts of really weird internet troubles in the past week and a half. So yeah, ghosts in the machine, says Truthflower. Yeah, the Germans, the NSA. Anyway. So let me redo all of this, and with apologies to all of you. First of all, the house cleaning. I did record a 2.5 hour long video for Bernard Grover with Catherine Austin Fitts on the QAnon phenomenon. That is posted on my Facebook wall and in the forum area of my website. You can also find it on YouTube. Just look up radiofarside.com on YouTube, and you'll find Bernard and Catherine and I talking about the QAnon phenomenon. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock U.S. Central Time, I have an interview. I've been invited to do a show with Daniel List, dark journalist, tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time. So that means there's no vid chat tomorrow, folks. You've got another week. The vid chat will be next Friday, not this Friday. So you've got another week to get your comments and questions in. Now, as you know, I've been talking a lot lately about the emergence of what I'm calling the quadruple entente. And I know I might seem to be a little obsessed about this story, but folks, this is a story that's going to impact you right in your pocketbook. And that's the reason I'm kind of focused on it. And it's a story that's developing so quickly that I'm now thinking and observing that space is a definite component of it. And I'll be blogging about the space component of it next week, which I think is going to be very, very significant. There is another power that is involved in this quadruple entente, and that's France. I'm going to be citing and referencing an article here by Vladimir Terekov that appeared in New Eastern Outlook on September 18th. In other words, just about a month ago, on September 8th of this year. The article is titled, "France is Getting Involved in Regional Power Games in Asia, but in what capacity?" And I want to read a few paragraphs from the beginning of this article, skip to two very important paragraphs right toward the middle of the article, and then conclude with a couple of things from the end. And this is very, very significant because I think what you're going to discover is that the implication of this means don't expect a sudden demise of the US dollar on the world stage, and I'll get back to that. So here we go. Quote, "In view of two noteworthy events which occurred in early September this year, it may be interesting to take another look at France's plans to join the power games being played out in the Indian and Pacific Ocean region, which is becoming a key arena in the current phase of the global political contest. It is another look, as Near Eastern Outlook has briefly dealt with this subject back in 2016 in connection with a speech given by the French Minister of the Armed Forces, Jean-Yves Le Drian, now the Foreign Minister, in the Shangri-La Dialogue Forum. In his speech, Jean-Yves Le Drian named a number of partners with which France had declared itself ready to work in order to ensure security in the region. These included the USA, Australia, quote, and even Japan, unquote, but no mention was made of China. This was unlikely to have been an oversight by his speechwriters. After all, following his trip to Singapore, his next stop was Vietnam, a country whose relationship with China could be described as far from straightforward, unquote. And obviously, Indochina, French Indochina, it's far from straightforward with France. But notably, the Vietnamese would rather like to talk to their former colonial overlords than with China. Okay, so I think this is very significant. Now I'm going to skip here to a couple of very important paragraphs right towards the middle of this article, because one of them kind of confirms my reading of Russia's role in this quadruple, or now quintuple, entente as being kind of a go-between between the Western powers and China. Listen carefully. Quote, "In fact, now would have been a very good moment to mediate between these two major world powers, meaning the United States and China, and try and diffuse a conflict which could have serious consequences for everyone. That is what Moscow, among other countries, attempted to do in the latest minister-level meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization." Now, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, folks, you recall, is just the formal name for the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and so on. As many observers have pointed out, exactly halfway between the two visits by French ministers described in this article, Emmanuel Macron, the new French president, proposed a new, listen carefully, proposed a new strategic alliance, not just entente, but alliance, between France, India, and Australia. He was quite clear about the main reason behind his initiative: China's assertive policy in the region. The phrase assertive policy, it should be noted, has become something of a meme in recent years, being frequently used by China's detractors. Skipping paragraphs, as for Australia, it has in turn been moving closer to France. It should be emphasized that Emmanuel Macron first spoke about his proposal during his visit to Australia in May of 2018. As is clear from the report on the prospects for developing relations with France, which was published by the Australian Senate in August of this year, bilateral cooperation in the area of defense was a central theme of the joint statement, which was adopted at that time. The Senate's report also contained a report on the cooperation on defense. Now, let me stop there. Why is that significant? Because I've been pointing out that the Commonwealth nations, in particular Australia and India, were two targets of post-Brexit British policy. We've seen Britain working out deals with the Australian Space Agency and so on. But I've also been pointing out that in Australia, there has been for quite some time a quiet debate going on as to whether Australia should have or develop its own independent nuclear deterrent. And now, look what you have. You have both major European thermonuclear powers, the United Kingdom and France, talking to Australia. So I suspect if Australia does go that route, one or the other, and possibly both of those powers, might be behind the development. And I mentioned Vietnam. It's interesting that what you see happening here is a very rapid expansion of this quad, this realignment geopolitically that I've been talking about. Now, why is that significant? It's significant, folks, for one reason. It means that there is going to be no rush or stampede in the West away from the U.S. dollar. And Catherine Fitz pointed this out in her last quarterly report that she and I just got done recording. What they're doing is they're keeping that system alive just long enough until they roll out a new one. All right. And the problem now is the fly in the ointment is China. And the reason why that I say this is connected to space, which I'll be blogging about next week, so make sure that you look at that. But the reason why this is all connected together and connected to space is, number one, they're planning to roll out, of course, all of these digital currencies. To do that, they're going to have secure control of space. So space is a winner-take-all game. Let me repeat it. It's a winner-take-all game. And right now, what you're seeing is the Western powers creating a geopolitical bloc to contain China. So there's a new space race going on behind this, because behind that is a huge economic prize. So I'm suggesting this is important, even at the level of your local pocketbook, because it means for the foreseeable future that there's not going to be a stampede away from the dollar until they get that other system and all of its blocks put into place. And that means they can't do that if China is going to be part of it and keep acting as it has been acting. In other words, this is a very, very serious geopolitical development, folks. And space is very, very much a part of it. And you're seeing all of the former colonial powers involved in this, because they have old colonial historical ties to that region. And China is odd man out here. So this is going to be a very, very long-term thing to watch. I want to clue you in. Watch for the tidbits this weekend and the honorable mentions, and watch my blogs next week, because I do want to be talking about space in connection with this emerging block that we're seeing. And it's confirmation of something else too, and that's Russia's role as kind of a go-between here. The problem for Russia now is, are they going to remain on an independent space course? Are they going to throw in with China, or are they going to throw in with the West? That's the choice facing Russia. So it's going to be very interesting seeing how they negotiate the next few years as well. Anyway, yeah, only the fake aliens would step in, says Jennifer and Bucks. Anyway, the Dark Journalist interview to Willie Metz, is that right? Yeah, Willis Metz, I'm sorry, is going to be tomorrow, not today. So anyway, that's it for today's news and views, folks. I know I'm kind of focused or obsessed about this quad thing that's emerging, but I think it's hugely, hugely important, and it's going to have a lot of impact, locally at the pocketbook level. Anyway, that's it for today's news and views, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being patient with my technical issues. Like I say, it's been a miserable week and a half. I've had one technical issue after another. Anyway, see you on the flip side, everybody. Bye-bye, and God bless.